The Persephone Foundation, Timeline Archives, Timeline number 012, Dining in Hell. This world diverged from ours during the Greco-Persian Wars, where the Persians secured victory against the Greek city-states. The Greeks became part of the Achaemenid Empire, with pro-Persian city-states gaining at the expense of their rivals. After a few unsuccessful rebellions, massive population transfers, mostly from Athens, to the eastern region of Paktar, you know it as Bactria, were carried out. Many Greeks fled to Italy, eventually intermingling with the natives. In the absence of Rome, the Gauls unite under the Arverni and conquer what is your world's France, Britain, Spain, Italy, and Germany. They drive many Germanic tribes north into Scandinavia, east into Russia, and south into Italy. Italy becomes a hodgepodge of Greek, native Italian, and Germanic civilizations. Carthage, you know it as Carthage, becomes a regional power, but neither the Arverni nor the Carthaginian empires enjoy the dominance of Rome. But the Achaemenid Empire was not to last. A dynastic crisis led to Paktar breaking away and attempting to conquer the rest of the empire. This was only successful in destroying Persian hegemony in the Middle East, leading to the independence of Egypt, Babylon, and Paktar, with the old Persian core territories constantly changing hands. Migration patterns changed dramatically. Southern Europe, including newly independent Greece, is overwhelmed with Germanic and Slavic nomads fleeing the Arverni and becoming a mix of Germanic, Greek, Persian, Slavic, and local Balkan culture. This area would be engulfed in war for most of history. Meanwhile, the Germanics displace many tribes in the east and force them into the Middle East, causing massive instability among the Babylonians and Paktari. These tribes later move west against the Arverni and dismantle their empire. Europe is engulfed in war for centuries. These Germanics ultimately move east, merging with Turkic peoples displaced by the expanding states in China, forming the ethnic core of the Oswindel Empire. Later, in the 8th and 9th centuries, a Slavic European nomadic tribe centered in Hungary unites and moves down into the Middle East through Anatolia and north against the Europeans, and destroying the empires there. While the Middle East is able to rebuild, the Europeans will not recover from this assault until the 18th century. Carthage fell to internal struggle and Slavic invasion in the 9th century, but not before creating a significant Mediterranean and West African trading empire. Carthage also absorbed the Egyptian Empire, which regained its independence after Carthage's fall. Many African slaves were transferred to Carthaginian holdings in Iberia and Italy, forming an African minority that is present to this day. Even after the fall of Carthage, Africa continued to be important in the minds of the civilized world. Paktar and the Indian states traded significantly with East African peoples and kingdoms. While these kingdoms became significantly more powerful in comparison to the developed world than they were in your world, they still succumbed to industrial might. However, colonialism proper wouldn't start until the 14th century. But Carthage would be revived as a great power in the 17th century, and the Mali Empire would remain a regional empire well into the 21st century. Meanwhile, the East became more powerful. The Indian cultures would remain the primary rival of the Persian-derived cultures, but it could never unite for any prolonged period of time, and spent just as much time fighting themselves, especially when the Western states converted to Mazdaism. Wars between the Achaemenids and the Paktari and the Indian kingdoms drive nomads such as the Scythians to the east. This has the effect of subjecting the nascent Qin Empire to frequent raids, giving the Chu in southern China ultimate victory, becoming Jingjia. This southern-oriented Chinese empire replaced the Indian kingdoms as the primary trade and cultural power in Southeast Asia. This dominance is later challenged by the Bactrians and other Persian states in the 8th and 9th centuries. But Chinese culture remains dominant even as Mazdaism becomes the dominant religion in the region. During the 9th century, the continent of Penglai, which you know as Australia, was discovered by Chinese traders. The continent was heavily settled until the 16th century, when Penglai declared its independence from Jingjia and fought a revolutionary war against them. Penglai became the center of anti-colonial ideology and supported independence movements throughout Southeast Asia and beyond. Ironically, Penglai itself would absorb these newly independent states and become a colonial power itself, ultimately establishing colonies in Africa and South America in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Americas were not discovered until the 14th century and were but a curiosity. Colonial empires, eager to prove their worth, carved up the continents with little regard for the natives within, who quickly succumbed to Old World disease. However, since settlement remained light, many native cultures survived, if in a weakened state. Colonialism remained strong well into the 21st century, and the Americas remained some of the most underdeveloped areas in the world. Technologically, this world is far more advanced than yours. The advent of the printing press in Jingjia during the 11th century, followed by the steam engine in Babylon during the 14th century, sparked an industrial revolution that spread through the Middle East and Asia. Jingjia and Penglai quickly became workshops of the world and sought new markets for their products. This would accelerate conflict between the world's industrialized powers, placing even more incentive to develop technologically. Poison gas was first used in anger during the Yanguk, which you know as Korea, Jingjia War of 1555, and the first nuclear weapon would be detonated by Pakhtar on the Caspian coast in the early 17th century, sparking a worldwide arms race. The first man-made object in space would be launched in 1685, and Jingjian men would land on the moon at the turn of the 18th century. The 21st century world is one that is at the brink of war. The totalitarian fascia political movement, based on legalism of old China, has taken over Penglai and Yanguk, with the absolutist Pakhtar Empire in support. The old conservative monarchies of Europe are starting to crumble as fascia militants and pro-democracy groups fight over the bloated corpses of old empires. Weapons are churned out by the millions by the great powers to any group willing to take up arms to marginally advance their interests. The only thing preventing war between the Penglai-Yanguk-Pakhtar axis and their Jingjian, Carthaginian, and Azwindel rivals are hundreds of thousands of nuclear weapons and thousands of orbital defense stations. The foundation of the first self-sustaining Martian colony in 2005 by Penglai only served to increase tensions beyond Earth's atmosphere. Points of interest. Jingjian Tongyao is Jingjia's first colony in the New World, very loyal to the motherland. Azwindel Tonggu is mostly left to the natives. The Azwindel only settled near the lakes. The Haudenosaunee state wishes to expand its territory in all directions. The Pakhtar have stopped human sacrifice in Tenochtitlan. Konglin has a nifty canal. Dameklungen, on the other hand, has nifty cocaine. The Tuansiu worship the Lord of Light, a very strict solar deity. Very fanatical. Jadad Pakhtar provides the homeland with plenty of pharmaceuticals. The Tongdu Colonial Authority is a dumping ground for dissidents and other criminals. Pritan is home to savages that fight each other constantly. Fratir as Yun's heart of darkness. The Averni ruled the continent once. Now they're trying to reunify their old core lands. The Vakai still have a beef with the Averni. Centuries of slaughter and domination would do that. Iberia is more Carthaginian than its neighbors. Grenania is ruled by a cannibalistic madman, unaware that it could have been worse. Azkaban pirates are a scourge for all mankind. The Mali Empire is the world's richest source of gold. Kemet is the primary counterweight to Karthast. The merchants of Nisset will tell you of old glories if you don't seem extremely busy. Yanguk Congo, as always, featuring hand-chopping action. Habesh is home to the richest ports in Fratir az-Mizir. Parsa wants to restore old glories by defeating its bastard child to the east. Hindush is strongly Mazdaist. Tianzhu is Taoist. And Bharata is Buddhist. They don't get along. Kina has been thoroughly Jingjianified, as is Wei. The Turkai worship horses, according to the Jingjian. Namviet has swallowed countless Jingjian soldiers throughout the centuries. They're damn proud of it. This has been a Persephone Foundation timeline reading. Thank you for listening.